What about Maven? Maven feels like a guy who I thought had a ton of upside, featured in the first Tough Enough, eliminates The Undertaker from the Royal Rumble in '02, a big shock moment. It feels like, hey man, he's got the personality, the charisma, the cool look. This guy's going to be a big deal. And then for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out.
He had it all. And after the fact, we learned that he had some issues with controlled substances that might have led to his downfall. But I thought that, especially with his personality, he was such a good kid and real. He was genuine, very likable, but it just didn't translate to the audience. They didn't care.
The next match is a last man standing match between Edge and Chris Benoit. At WrestleMania, Edge had won the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match, gaining himself a contract that gives him a title shot at the World Heavyweight Championship within the next year. On the April 4th Raw, Edge chose not to use his contract that night, instead deciding to wait for the right opportunity. And when Edge declines to force Batista into a title defense, Eric Bischoff then schedules Edge in a match against Chris Benoit. Benoit wins the match by pinfall, doing a little roll up. And after the match, Edge attacks Benoit's injured arm with a steel chair. 2 weeks later, Benoit and Edge are forced into another match, which also ends in a no contest, leading the Bischoff to book a last man standing match here. They get a ton of time. Well, not as much as the most recent last man standing. 17 minutes, 59 seconds, 3.5 stars. The crowd is hot right away. You screwed Matt. Oh man. Then there's We Want Matt. I mean, the crowd's taking over the show, but really these guys are pulling out all the stops. But then there's something weird. Edge hits a bunch of spears, and then he hits Benoit with a brick that he'd taken out of his briefcase. Benoit's down for the count. Wade would say very good match, but a bit repetitive, and the countdown rules took away from the drama rather than adding to it. It killed any momentum. And there's been a lot of folks over the years who have a similar take on a last man standing match, that of all the different steps, this may be one of the more challenging ones to really get fans behind and keep them there. Would you agree with that?
I think that the whole idea behind a last man standing match, you have to tell that story going into it, and it can be difficult to do with certain talent. I thought that their match was excellent. I thought that they had a great match and were able to tell that story. At the same time, you have got to have that heated rivalry that both of these guys want to put the other down. They want to put the other down. They want to put the other down to stay down. And while they both worked to that in the match, I don't know if the audience felt that same thing from them, if that makes any sense at all. They did it. They had a match telling that story, but maybe their build up to it beforehand might have needed to be a little bit stronger.
Yeah, it's not my favorite step. I really like the performers in this match though. I think this era of Edge is some of his very best stuff. What did you think about the chemistry between Edge and Benoit?
I thought they had great chemistry. You just took the words out of my mouth. To me, this was Edge's coming out party. And this is where he just started to take it to a whole nother level that a lot of us didn't even realize he had, and it was good for him.
It was good for him. After the match, we see Lita making out with Kane backstage. That was probably fun for everybody. And then Jerry Lawler interviewed the WWE Divas in the ring. Chris Masters is going to interrupt and take a female volunteer from the crowd. And after making fun of her for having hairy armpits and man-like muscles, he puts her in the full Nelson. This is silly shit, man.
Yeah. That it was. Yeah, sometimes, Conrad, I just got nothing. Like, oh yeah, we did that.
Yeah. I think the lady that is brought out of the crowd by Chris Masters is Melissa Coates, who I think is the genie character that's running around with Sabu these days.
I believe it is one and the same.
Next up, Trish would tell Viscera to concentrate on the task at hand, not the reward afterward. Man, this booking from 15 years ago, it's just flooded with stuff like this. I don't know. That's a little weird to me. Next up, we see Jerry. What's that?
So don't get hot.
Next up, we've got Kane and Viscera. Kane, of course, has lead on his side. Viscera has Trish Stratus on his. 6 minutes and 7 seconds. It gets half a star. Lita, or Kane picks up the win, and it's written here in the write-up by Wade. Lita hit Trish with her crutch at ringside to stop her from interfering. When Viscera cornered Lita and wagged his tongue in her face, Kane surprised him with a big boot and a chokeslam for the pin. And then Trish ripped on Viscera for losing. Listen, we know the silliness that is Kane and Lita. We've talked about that a little bit. I'm sure we'll talk about it more on a Kane episode. But Viscera, Trish, what the fuck?
What do you mean, what the fuck?
How did that come to be?
That's great shit, man. Big Daddy Vis, he was a lover. And Trish loved it too, man. It was just so that big bastard man romancing some ladies. He had a silver tongue and some gold teefuses that just would not stop.
Did you say teefuses?
Teefuses.
Okay.
Like me, like I got these teefuses and they keep falling out and shit.
No, dude, every time we're late, we're posting a show, half the comments are, what's wrong with Bruce's teeth today? So.
Good Lord.
Next up, we've got Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels teaming up for the first time. They're going to take on Muhammad Hassan and Daivari. So here's the gist of the backstory. The night after WrestleMania, Shawn comes out thanking the fans for their support, but he's down on himself for losing. And before he can continue, Hassan and Daivari come out, and Hassan has some pretty pointed comments for Shawn losing, and Shawn slaps him, which of course earns him a beatdown. They leave him laying in the ring. And the following week, Shawn approaches Bischoff and demands a handicap match. He wants Hassan and Daivari. Bischoff refuses to schedule that match, but instead informs Michaels to find a partner and then says he'll grant him the match. So Shawn makes a plea for Hulk Hogan to come back and team with him. And on the April 18th Raw, Hassan attacks Michaels until Hogan comes out and accepts the offer. So this is, now we're cooking with gas here. We got something special. We've got Shawn Michaels. We got Hulk Hogan on the same team, but it feels like something that just probably shouldn't have happened. It feels like two totally different eras is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't feel like they would have ever really crossed paths, but here it is. And we know what we're going to get at SummerSlam, but did we know right here? Like, when did the plan for SummerSlam being Hulk Hogan versus Shawn Michaels, was that already in place at this point? I mean, was that the end of the story all along, or was it more about, hey, let's just do something with this Hassan character?
At this point, it was doing something with Hassan, and it was taking two great legends from two different eras and putting them together. It grew into the Hulk and Shawn story once we saw what we had there, but I found it highly entertaining because it's two of the best. It simply is the two best from their eras.